Ever wondered how much the smartest minds in history were worth? We often marvel at their discoveries, their impact on the world, but rarely do we consider their paychecks. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of historical salaries, specifically focusing on a giant of science, Sir Isaac Newton. Just how much was Newton paid for his groundbreaking work? Was he rolling in riches, or scraping by while revolutionizing physics? The answer, as you might expect, is more complex than you think. Before we jump into Newton's specific earnings, let's paint a picture of the academic and scientific landscape of his time. The 17th and 18th centuries were a period of immense intellectual ferment. Universities were centers of learning, but they weren't always overflowing with cash. Professors, even renowned ones, often relied on a combination of salary, student fees, and sometimes even church stipends to make a living. The concept of research grants as we know them today was still in its infancy. Scientists often had patrons, wealthy individuals who supported their work, but this was far from a guaranteed source of income. So, where did Newton's money come from? He held several key positions throughout his career, each contributing to his overall income. His most notable academic role was as Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge. This prestigious chair, originally held by Isaac Barrow, was a significant appointment. But what did it pay? Now, here's where things get interesting. Direct comparisons to modern salaries are tricky. Inflation, changes in currency values, and differences in the cost of living make it difficult to give a precise equivalent. However, we can look at historical records to get a sense of the scale. The Lucasian professorship, while an honor, wasn't necessarily a path to immense wealth. The salary was respectable, certainly above average for the time, but it wouldn't have made Newton a millionaire by today's standards. Think of it more like a solid middle-class income, providing financial security but not extravagant riches. It's important to remember that Newton's income wasn't solely derived from his professorship. He also held a position at the Royal Mint. This wasn't just some ceremonial role. Newton was actively involved in the recoinage of England, a massive undertaking that aimed to stabilize the currency. This position, while perhaps less glamorous than his academic work, proved to be significantly more lucrative. In fact, it eventually became his primary source of income. The Master of the Mint was a well-compensated position. Newton's meticulous work and administrative skills made him a valuable asset, and he was rewarded accordingly. His income from the Mint far surpassed what he earned at Cambridge. This is a crucial point to understand. Newton's wealth wasn't primarily built on abstract mathematics and groundbreaking physics. It was his practical contributions to the nation's finances that truly lined his pockets. So, we have a picture of Newton as a man of considerable means, but not solely because of his scientific genius. His income was diversified, coming from both academia and public service. The Royal Mint position, in particular, played a crucial role in his financial success. Now, let's address a common misconception. Newton wasn't some eccentric recluse, completely detached from the practical world. He was a complex individual with a range of interests and abilities. His work at the Mint demonstrates his aptitude for administration and finance. He wasn't just a theorist, he was a practical man who understood the importance of a stable economy. It's also worth noting that Newton's era was different from our own in terms of how scientists were compensated. There wasn't the same emphasis on intellectual property and patents as there is today. While Newton's discoveries were revolutionary, he didn't necessarily profit directly from them in the same way a modern inventor might. His primary income came from his official positions, not from royalties or licensing agreements. Another factor to consider is the social context of the time. While Newton was a renowned figure, the concept of a celebrity scientist didn't quite exist in the same way it does today. Scientists were respected, but they weren't necessarily seen as cultural icons. Their income reflected this. They were professionals, but not necessarily superstars. So, to return to our original question, how much was Newton paid? The answer is multifaceted. His income from Cambridge was respectable, providing a comfortable living. However, his real wealth came from his work at the Royal Mint. This position, while less intellectually glamorous, was far more financially rewarding. It allowed Newton to amass a considerable fortune, making him a wealthy man by the standards of his time. It's fascinating to consider this aspect of Newton's life. We often focus on his intellectual achievements, and rightly so. But understanding his financial situation gives us a more complete picture of the man. He wasn't just a brilliant scientist, he was also a shrewd administrator and a practical man who understood the value of financial security. It's also a reminder that the relationship between genius and wealth is complex. Newton's case highlights the fact that financial success isn't always directly tied to intellectual brilliance. Sometimes, it's the practical application of those talents, or the willingness to engage in other fields, that leads to greater financial rewards. Newton's story is a testament to this. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.